Mexico rancher, talking a little about Longhorns and the Old West, and maybe a couple cowboy poems. Now, these came on Columbus' second voyage to the Caribbean in 1521 to North American continent. They spent 300 years in the wild. They remained pretty much the descendants of Spanish cattle, because the settlers' cattle that came in the 1700s and 1800s would only live a couple of months because of tick fever, where these guys are immune. These animals are designed by Mother Nature. With 300 years in the wild, survival of the smartest. Their intelligence is about that of a mule, and their stubbornness is about the same. History. But, you know, these steers gave us, these Longhorns gave us three things. The roads and railroads came south on the cattle trails that went north. And that's infrastructure. The economy of the Southwest was built by the Texas Longhorn. But the most important thing they gave us, we'd be a different people if it hadn't been for these guys. There would have been sheep herding and mining, but there'd been no trail drives, there'd been no wild west without the Texas Longhorn. Wild West, or the Texas Longhorn and the Wild West, impacted on our culture. It made us who we are today. They provided meat for the east, and they stocked the northern range. Your normal herd size was about 25 to 3,500, although there were a few herds that were as much as 35 to 50,000. Early in 1867, they were $5 if you could. If you were buying them, they were free if you could catch them. When they got to Abilene, Kansas in 1867, they were worth $45, $50. Cost about $1 a mile to take a herd of about 3,500 up the trail, making 12, 14 miles a day. They were driven by about a dozen people, a boss, a gun don't cook, the rest of them were 12, 15 years old. You can imagine a 12-year-old kid leaving his home where his horizons had probably only extended about 10, 15 miles from his cabin and going 900 miles on trail drive. Probably if he was the youngest one, he was riding drag and eating dust. A lot of them stayed with the trail drive almost throughout the duration. There's a couple of books, Log of a Cowboy and We Pointed Him North, that will give you a good description of the trail drive. At night, when they would stop, if it was clear out, the cook would point the chuck wagon tongue at the North Star, so if it was foggy, they knew which way to start. The boss would go ahead and find a water source and a campground, and then they would eat 11, 12 o'clock, and let the animals graze for a while. Then they would continue and the cook would go ahead to the next campground. They remained pretty much pure Spanish cattle because of the tick fever. They solved the tick fever problem in about late 1800s, early 1900s by dripping in fuel oil, and they would totally submerge the cow. Now, there were quarantine lines across Kansas that started out in Abilene at the end of the Civil War, or 1867, and before a Longhorn could cross that line, he had to be either certified in a hard freeze or else in a boxcar. And that's because of tick fever. As the settlers came into that area, they moved the quarantine line because the other cows just couldn't live where these cows walked because of the tick fever. This is a pure-blood Longhorn. His sire and dam were blood tested. His horns, as you notice, are different. They called them ripper horns in the trail drive days. or lyre-shaped horns after the musical instrument, although Bob here doesn't always tell the truth. But if you think about the caveman drawings 25,000 years ago, when the ancestors of almost all of our cattle, except the Rainbow-based cattle, the Moss Indus cattle, were there, this is what the horns look like. And the genes are still there, and they pop up once in a while. They're very rare. We had no idea when we started the training his horns would be like that. We've only had 3 or 4 cattle with horns like that. But you do notice that even though they're shaped like that, they also have full twists. Now, there are about 50 of us, and I'm the only one in New Mexico. There might be one guy in Louisiana that are trying to preserve the old style Longhorn. We're trying to raise animals that you would have seen if you stood beside the trail in 1870.
Oh, you know what? You want me to go?
You're fine.
You know,
So I didn't ride for months and on. Reminder that whoa, and here and there, so loosen up the neck and off we go. No bumping out or anything.
yesterday, first day I rode horses, they're just like, if you train mules, you can train that.
Ah. Maybe I have a new career coming up, huh?
It's bright and sunny at Saunders Ranch, and we're having a horse fun you can have with your boots on. It's our
You're
36th
welcome.
annual Gator Trail, the World Championship of Cowboy Action Shooting, presented by Wabaker Old West Clothing